Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning, and welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for joining in. Happy Thursday. Yes, the week is almost done, and we're here with another amazing story. And this one is actually stories within this one book. It's a collection of stories, powerful stories, inspiring stories, and again, it was boiled down to 14, but we'll also be trying, because of time, we'll only narrow it down to 3. It is hard, but we've picked out 3 that we'll share today, of course, with inspiring stories, and hopefully that you can that we're reading today at your local library, or indeed find it where you find books and get to see a lot more. And of course, we'll plan to bring it back here to story time so we can share a lot more of this wonderful book. So today we're reading She Spoke. Yes, this one is a story of 14 women who raised their voices and changed the world. It is written by Kathrin, Macmillan, and Manuela Bernardi, and illustrations by Kathrin, Honesta. So thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. And we're reading this one with permission of the publishers, FAMILIUS Books. Thank you indeed for allowing us to share this beautiful book here on Storytime. Thank you indeed, and I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that we learn from it, and of course, I hope that we remind ourselves of the important things that these amazing women in this book have done, and of course continue doing too. Thank you so much for being here with us on Storytime, and please remember to send us your recommendations here to Storytime so we can bring the books that you would like to see, of course the books that you know about that we might not know about, that others here might not know about. So yes, share that knowledge. Thank you for being here with us on Storytime, and as always, please let us know where you're joining in from and who is joining in with you, and we hope that you're having a wonderful day where you are, and please let us know how the weather is like as well. Thank you for being here, and looking forward to this community all the time. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime, and I hope that you're ready for this wonderful book. But before then, let us see who is with us this morning, ready to enjoy wonderful stories. Good morning to you. How are you doing? Good to see you out in Orange County. Good to see you, April, Booker, Jemison, Alicia, and Linley. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Good to see you. I hope that your summer break is well underway or has started, and thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. Sending you hugs out there in Orange County. Good to see you. Welcome back to Storytime. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we hope that you had a lovely end to the school year, and of course I hope that you have a lovely summer break as well. Thank you so much for joining in, Jemison, Alicia, and Linley, and of course April. Thank you so much for joining us on Storytime. And April, hopefully you're having a much deserved rest from the school year. Thank you so much for being here with us. Good to see you all. Orange County representing today on Storytime. Thank you so much for being here with us. Good morning to you, Amanda West. Thank you for being here with us. And of course, the amazing Sarah and Nathan here out there in muggy Illinois today. We're going to the library soon to have our own story time with our own local read to a dog program. I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I know that it happens in several places. So I hope that, yeah, in your community, you can look out for those events and get to participate just like Sarah and Nathan will be doing today. Thank you so much for joining in and say story time with Miss Limada and friends. Oh, love, love, love. Thank you so much for sharing that. We appreciate you. We love you. We're so thankful that you're a part of this wonderful community. Thank you for being here with us. And of course, for spending time with us before you go to the library and read to the dogs. We appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining in. One more time, Sarah and Nathan, and of course, Amanda West. Thank you for being here with us on Storytime out there in muggy Illinois. But clearly, you're bringing the joy and sunshine to many of us, and of course, those very lucky animals today. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Kathy, good morning to you. Luna, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining us out there in Ohio. Good to see you here with us on Storytime. Yes, sending you kisses and hugs out there in Ohio. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Appreciate you and glad that you're here with us to enjoy today's book. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. And yes, Amanda, we're such fun. We love reading to dogs at the library. Our program is called Tales to Tales. I love it. I love it. Adorable. Have fun. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. And thank you for letting us know too, sharing these programs. Hopefully somebody listening knows about them now and might as well go and participate. So yeah, please do look out. One that comes to mind here for sure is I know a city. Oh my goodness, why am I blanking on the city? I'll remember before we go today, but they do that as well. And I think it's every third Thursday, they get to bring in animals, dogs, and kids can go in. Anybody really can go in and read to them. So look out for programs in your neighborhood. Libraries are a great resource. And here we are again with another amazing resource that they put up. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for joining in Storytime. Ari, good morning to you. How are you doing today? Thank you for being here. And of course, Megan, thank you for joining us on Storytime. Absolutely appreciate you. And you say it is board game week this week. Oh my goodness, where is board game week happening? Is it at your local library? Is it at your home? Where is it happening, Ari? We want to be a part of it. Thank you so much for sharing. And that does sound like a lot of fun. What is your favorite board game? For me, Scrabble, hands down. If you have a Scrabble board and you're ready to play, just let me know and I'll be there in no time. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Glad that you're here. And yes, I hope that everybody gets to enjoy this wonderful weekend. It sounds like a lot of beautiful things are happening. A lot of fun things are happening. I hope that you get to enjoy them. Thank you so much for being here with us on Storytime. Good morning to you, Pamela, Courtney. Thank you so much for joining in today. And you say good morning to everyone. Already hot out there in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Thank you so much for joining us today on Storytime. Hugs to you, Pamela, Courtney. And you know, even when Braylon and Chad are not here with us for the live, we still send them love, 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 and lots of hugs and well wishes. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Auntie Anne, thinking of you as well. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. And of course, the entire family too. Thank you so much for joining in. So we know everybody, board game week is happening at Ari's house. Turn up and get to play. Well, have fun, Ari. Thank you so much for joining in. And you said your favorite. Okay, I don't think I've actually heard of this one. You say my favorite game is Catopoly. I've not heard of that one before. So thank you for sharing that. I'll be reading about it a little later just to find out what it's all about. Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, thank you. Thank you indeed for being here. Missy, thank you for joining in Storytime. Good to see you here. And of course, you're out there in Ohio. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Sending you love and glad that you're here with us, starting the morning with us today. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And of course, course, Sharon Lungo and Soraya. Good morning to you right here in Oakland. Yes, indeed. I hope that you're enjoying your summer break. I hope that you've been enjoying camp or whatever else that you've been up to. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. Liz, good morning to you. How are you doing all the way out in Zambia? Well, tell me, where in Zambia are you joining in from? Are you in the friendly city of Ndala, or maybe are you in my hometown of Lusaka? Thank you so much for joining in. Liz Parson out there in Zambia, thank you for being here. I am glad that you're here with us. Please let us know what part of Zambia you're joining in from, and looking forward to having you here on many more story times. Thank you for joining in, and I hope that you stick around for our book for today. Katapali is like a cat version of Monopoly. Well, you learn every day, right? Thank you so much for that. I will definitely be looking into it. And the other cat game I can think of is Exploding Kittens. I was introduced to that one quite recently and got to play it, I think, once or twice. And I enjoyed it. I really did. And yeah, so there's another game there. And it looks like Pamela Courtney is not familiar as well with Katapali. Sounds fun. And Tiana and I are teaching the boys to play spades. Domino's next learning spades is rite of passage. So you know. So I guess Pamela Courtney, if I have to earn my way into the Courtney family, I have to learn. I have to learn spades or relearn spades, right? So there we go. I know one more thing to do to find my way into that Courtney family. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for sharing. And Liz Paulson is joining us from out in Lusaka, and you know that is my hometown. Love it. And yeah, I haven't been back in a couple of years, and hopefully be back soon. Thank you so much for joining in out there in Lusaka. And what time is this? This is June, so we're in the cold season out there. Hopefully you're staying warm, and hopefully our stories today can keep you warm, Liz. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. Oh, Pamela Courtney is so kind. Thank you so much. I definitely feel a part of the family. Thank you for being here with us on Story Time. Please get comfortable, get cozy, get ready for today's story. And this one is a collection, a compendium of stories. And this one is called She Spoke, 14 Women Who Raised Their Voices and Changed the World. And we're getting ready for this one, so please get comfortable, get cozy, go grab what you need right now. Did you forget to bring that orange juice? Well, go get it now. Did you forget to get that pillow so you can lie down and listen in? Well, go. We have time to do that. Go on and get it. We'll see you on the other side of this short break when we're back for more Story Time. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time today. Absolutely.
Hi, friends. My name is Christy, and I am the author of A Heart in the Sand, also known as Un Corazón en la Arena. Now, this bilingual book is about tesoros, or treasures. And something that I treasure is my friendship with Mr. Lamada. So I have a challenge for you. Share this story time with someone who you treasure, and we can all spread the literary love.
Thank you indeed. Welcome back to Story Time. Let us continue to share that literally love. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. And I'm glad that we're back here together. I'm glad we're here together. A beautiful story awaits, or beautiful stories await. And remember too that this book has 14 stories of different amazing women here that have done so much. But we're going to pick out just 3. So you can imagine how hard that was. And the book also talks about narrowing it down to the 14 that were collected in here. And we get to read about that as well. But this one is called She Spoke, and 14 Women Who Raised Their Voices and Changed the World. This one is written by Kathy Macmillan, Manuela Bernardi, and illustrations by Kathrin Honesta. Thank you so much for joining in, and we're reading it with permission of the publishers, FAMILIUS Books. Thank you indeed for allowing us to share this beautiful book and many others too from FAMILIUS right here on Storytime. And this one too was published in 2019. And there will be one story that we read where that date will be relevant because we'll have to, things have changed since 2019. So here we go. This is our story for today. And we're kicking it off with, let's start with why. And this is I thought we should read this because it is an important piece. And we're going to start. Of course, there are the amazing women that are featured in this book, including one that we read about most recently. As you can see there, Senator Tammy Duckworth is in here as well. And we won't be covering that story today, partly because we just covered her story recently, and hopefully we remember that one. And of course, too, when you get this book at home, whether from your local library or elsewhere, I hope that you can read more on that story. But powerful, powerful stories indeed. But here we go with the why for this book. It says, what does it mean to raise your voice? It can be a lot more than screaming and shouting. It also means defending yourself or a cause you believe in. Sometimes that happens through literally speaking up and making a speech in front of a crowd, or through simply voicing an opinion over the dinner table, even if it's unpopular. And that's key too. For much of history, women were discouraged from speaking in public at all, let alone making speeches. They had little voice in politics or lawmaking. The modern concept of a democratic vote emerged in the 7th century BCE, but this only applied to men. Women did not receive the right to vote until more than 2,500 years later. New Zealand was the first country to grant women the right to vote in 1893. Women in the United Kingdom had to wait until 1918, and women in the United States until 1920. And I want to just pause on that too. I'm curious about other civilizations, like civilizations in Africa, how the voting rights were happening. And so just a note that this only mentions, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. But we know that the world is so much larger. And of course, too, we know that some written histories may mean that countries in Africa and other places might not be recorded, but it would be interesting to see where and how that voting was happening as well. Even today, women often pay a high price for speaking up, not necessarily because of what they're saying or how they're saying it, but because some people don't like that women are speaking up at all. Malala Yousafzai was shot in the head by the Taliban for speaking up about girls' right to education. And female politicians and activists like Hillary Clinton, Shirley Chisholm, and Susan Shawn Hajo have been mocked when they have spoken up about political issues. But these and the other inspiring women featured in this book didn't let those things stop them, and neither should you. No matter who you are, you have the right to speak up. The world needs your voice. And I just thought we should start with that, and then, of course, dive in to read about the three women that we're going to be featuring today here on Storytime. And to kick us off, here we go. And this is one name I've been meaning to look into the pronunciation, but here we are. Storytime is happening, and I didn't quite get to do that. And this one that we're covering, and please, if you know the pronunciation, help me out, especially with the last name. So it's Susan Shawn Hajo, or I'm thinking it's Hajo, but I'm not quite sure actually. I meant to look it up and have not done that. And this was planned a long time ago, so my mistake on that. But I am going to stick with Hajo. How about that? And then if you know, please do send it my way and let me know how I should pronounce that. So this is the amazing lady right there, and we're going to be reading about them. So here we go. Susan Shone Haho grew up with a strong sense of her Cheyenne and Muskogee heritage. Her great-grandfather, Chief Bube, led resistance to government oppression during the 1800s. Susan spent her childhood on a reservation in Oklahoma before moving to Naples, Italy, where her father was stationed with the U.S. Army. She wrote poetry, sang, and played guitar. Determined to carry on the legacy of her great-grandfather as an adult, she produced the first native news radio show with her husband, Frank Ray Haho. Later, she would write, "My role is to amplify our voice." She did so on an ever-growing scale. As a congressional liaison for the Indian Affairs appointed by President Jimmy Carter in 1978, as executive director of the National Congress of American Indians from 1984 to 1989, and since 1984 as founder and president of the Morning Star Institute. Throughout her career, Susan has worked to improve the lives of Native people, addressing issues such as healthcare, civil rights, cultural preservation, and research. She helped pass laws to protect Native languages, grave sites, sacred objects, and traditions, and was the founding director of the National Museum of the National Museum of American Indian. Susan led a high-profile lawsuit against Washington, D.C.'s professional football team to change its offensive name and mascot. Though that didn't succeed, and we know that now it has, but at the time this was written in 2019, though that had not succeeded, her work has led to more than 2,000 schools and sports teams dropping mascots based on stereotypes of Native people. And we know that the Washington team did change its name to Washington Commanders now. And so you can see that the work we put in may not always show fruits right there. It may take time, but clearly that persistence and planting that seed worked wonders. And as you can see that, yes, we continue to put in the work to change those names and show respect, indeed, and integrity, and much deserved respect to the various indigenous tribal groupings. So here we go. That is Susan John Haho, and here it says Susan's voice. On November 24th, 2014, Susan Shone Haho received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in recognition of her work in preserving tribal land and encouraging Native people to develop pride in their heritage. In an interview following the award, she reflected on her experience fostering positive social change. And you get to listen if you do have this book, and let me see how this will go, but you can actually get to listen to Susan's voice and some of the words that she shared in here. And here we go, and you have these buttons here, and you can just go ahead and click. Let's see. I'll try and put close to the mic so you can hear. Let's here we go.
Unless you have the people and the energy and the will and the people who really have a passion for doing a certain thing, nothing will happen. But if you have all of those things, everything's going to happen. And if you just stick it out long enough, you prevail.
Isn't that cool? I hope you were able to hear that. But it just says there in the end, she says, and if you just stick it out long enough, you prevail. So keep persisting, keep planting those seeds. Your voice matters, your work matters. And just in case it wasn't clear from the recording, it says, the quote there says, unless you have the people and the energy and the will and the people who really have passion for doing a certain thing, nothing will happen. But if you have all those things, everything's going to happen. And if you stick it out long enough, you prevail. And it asks you a question here to leave you with something to think about. It says, your turn to speak. Susan Sean Haho grew up with a strong sense of her heritage and has worked to protect that heritage. What do you know about your heritage, and how would you like to share it with others? Something to think about. Susan is best known for her passionate fight to get sports teams to do away with names based on offensive stereotypes of Native people. She argues that it is vital to clear away this underbrush of stereotypical images. How does speaking up against stereotypes help people? There you go. Things to think about. And that is the story of this amazing activist, poet, writer, curator, and advocate for Native rights. She was born on June 2nd, 1945, in El Reno, Oklahoma, in the United States of America. And there you go. That is the story of Susan Sean Haho. And I hope I'm getting that name correctly. I will definitely be looking into it now. Too late for this reading, but I'll definitely be looking into it and sharing that hopefully on tomorrow's reading. But there you go. That is one story, and yeah, just powerful indeed. And our next story that we pick up is one of Lema Bowie. Lema Bowie, and I definitely picked the hard names, right? But who is Lema Bowie? And yes, this one is a social worker, peace activist, born February 1, 1972 in Monrovia, Liberia. And so this is her story. When Lema Bowie was a young girl in Liberia, she dreamed of becoming a doctor. But in 1989, when she was a teenager, a brutal 14-year civil war erupted. Nearly 10% of the population was killed. More than 1 million people lost their homes. Lema witnessed terrifying acts of violence from rebels and government soldiers alike. She volunteered as a social worker, helping child soldiers who had been forced to fight. In 2002, a voice in a dream encouraged her to bring women together to pray for peace. Lema started the Women in Peace Building Network, or WIPNET in short, which soon included women from all faiths and backgrounds. They staged protests by praying in the streets and in an open-air market. Lema's fear of violence had become anger, and she used her anger to work for change. In 2003, a year later, when the attention from WIPNET's protests earned them an audience with Liberia's tyrannical president, Lema demanded that he attend peace talks with the warring factions. During the talks, Lema and several hundred women camped out in the hallway, refusing to leave until an agreement had been reached. Thanks to their actions, the Liberian War officially ended a few weeks later. Lema went on to earn a master's degree in conflict transformation and co-found the Women, Peace and Security Network in Africa, which promotes women's leadership in building peaceful societies. In 2011, Lema received the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of her nonviolent protest work. Powerful indeed. On May 19th, 2013, Lema Bowie delivered the commencement address at Bernardi College in New York. She encouraged the graduates to set aside their fears and live out their dreams. And let's take a listen to some of what she said. And here we go. Again, I'll try and hold it up to the mic.
Refuse to be in the shadows as you step out into this life. Don't be shy, no matter how crazy it seems to you. That crazy idea may just be the solution for some crazy global or local problem.
Can't say any more. Just repeating that phrase just because just in case it wasn't clear in the recording. Refuse to be in the shadows as you step out into this life. Don't be shy no matter how crazy it seems to you. That crazy idea may just be the solution for some crazy global or local problem. And there you have it. Lema Bowen, just something to think about. It says your turn to speak. And that's one part I love about this book too, is that it offers us that little bit of reflection, again, reflection opportunity to think, what are we doing in our community? How are we turning up? And it says Lema Bowen transformed our fear into anger and then use that anger to fight for peace. How can anger be used for good? Lema's work for peace really took off when she shared her dream with other women. What is your dream? How can you share it with others? Lema's work for peace really took off when she shared her dream with other women. What is your dream? How can you share it with others? Another thing to think about there for sure. So that is the story of Lema Bowe, a social worker, peace activist who was born on February 1st, 1972 in Monrovia, Liberia. That is our story number 2 for today. And now let us go into our last story. And this one is, of course, I had to put in a sports person in there too, right? And soccer, of course, it had to be. And we're going to be talking about the prolific goal scorer, Abby Wambach. But there's more to Abby than just soccer. So let's read their story. And this one, of course, was indeed a professional soccer player and soccer coach, born on June 2nd, 1982 in Rochester, New York, in the United States of America. And this is Abby's story. Abby Wambach was the youngest of 7 children in a very active family. Even as a toddler, she played touch football, roller hockey, and lacrosse against her brothers. At age 4, she joined her first soccer team. Competitive and fearless, she worked hard over the years to become the best on her team. She often trained after the others had left, practicing diving headers, the move that would become her signature as a professional soccer player. When she played for the University of Florida in Gainesville, she scored a record-breaking 96 goals in 4 seasons. In 2002, she was signed by the Washington Freedom and soon won the Women's United Soccer Association Rookie of the Year award. Abby made the American national soccer team and helped her country win the Olympic gold medals and the 2015 World Cup. She has scored 184 international goals, the world record among both male and female soccer players. Abby is known for her enthusiastic mentoring of other players, her advocacy for pay equity and LGBTQIA plus athletes, and her unrelenting support for her team, even when she was benched. When she retired from soccer in 2015, she said that she hoped to be forgotten because if her accomplishments become commonplace in the future, it means she has done her job in paving the way for many more women to succeed. On May 16th, 2018, Abby delivered the commencement speech at Bernardi College in New York, where she talked about the roles society assigns women and how to shift that perspective. She encourages women to build wolf packs with other women to help one another and triumph together. And this is what she had to say. Let's listen in. Let me find Abby on the... There we go. So let's listen in to what Abby had to say.
I stayed on the path out of fear, not of being eaten by a wolf, but of being cut, being benched, losing my paycheck. If I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be this. Abby, you You were never Little Red Riding Hood. You were always the wolf.
And just again, I'll read it just in case we couldn't hear it clearly from the recording. I stayed on the path out of fear, not of being eaten by a wolf, but of being cut, being benched, losing my paycheck. If I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be this. Abby, you were never Little Red Riding Hood. You were always the wolf. And that is the story of Abby Wambach. And the question that it has for us here today, too, says, Abby spent many, many hours practicing her signature diving header move. Why is it important to practice hard and not rely on talent alone if we want to succeed? As Abby said in her speech, girls are often given the message that they should keep to the path, avoid new things, and accept what others tell them to be. But it doesn't need to be that way. Why is it important to choose your way, to choose your own path in your life? So something again to think about there. And that is the last story that we're going to read today. So much to unpack in this book, but we'll be right back after this short break. So please join us on the other side of this one for much more story time. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Olalu Ogunyemi, officer in the United States Marine Corps and author of Crow from the Shadow. You are tuned in with my brother on Story Time with Mr. Lamada. Enjoy and God bless.
Yes, indeed. Ola Olu Ogunyemi, Crow from the Shadow, Billy Dipper's Time to Shine, Horace the Horsefly, so many wonderful books, and of course, a good friend as well. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. I hope that we've been left inspired. We've been left thinking, pondering all those amazing questions that we've been asked in there. Reflection time for sure. She spoke 14 women who raised their voices and changed the world. This one is written by Kathy Macmillan and Manuela Bernardi, and illustrations by Kathrin Honesta. And I just thought too, before we go, I wanted to read the back because there's an afterword, and just to show you too, like even for this book, even though there's the 14 that have been addressed, there's many others on this list that have not, whose stories have not been included, but were considered. Just shows you how many amazing women are out there doing amazing things. And of course, we cannot cover them all. But I just thought I should read this part as well. I almost went through without pressing that. I always do that. All right, so the afterword in this one says, the hardest part of writing this book was narrowing the content down to the 14 women featured in these pages. There are so many women who have fought to do and say inspiring things. So many women that most people have never heard of because historically female voices were not valued or preserved. In choosing the 14 women featured here, we aimed to present a mix of backgrounds, topics, and time periods, as well as a mix of well-known women and women we felt should be more well-known. We encourage you to check out our website, and I will put that website up as well. Check out our website at tinyurl.com/she spoke. To learn more about other inspiring women we wish we could have included in the book, such as those listed in the box to the right. And some of those names in the box to the right include Jane Addams, a labor rights activist, Sonita Alizade, a rapper and advocate against child marriage, Ella Baker, civil rights activist, Susan B. Anthony, women's voting rights activist, Daisy Bates, Tilly Black Bear, advocate for abused women, Nellie Bly, investigative reporter, Rachel Carson, scientist, author, environmental advocate, Bessie Coleman, aviator, Elizabeth II, Queen of Great Britain, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, U.S. Supreme Court Justice, Fannie Lou Hamer, civil rights activist, Dorothy Height, civil rights activist, Grace Harper, computer programmer, Mary Winston Jackson, NASA engineer, Mae Jemison, astronaut, scientist, June Jordan, poet, writer, and civil rights feminist and civil rights activist, feminist, anti-war, and gay and lesbian rights activist. Helen Keller, writer, disability rights advocate. Wangari Maathai, environmental activist. Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany. Eleanor Roosevelt, US First Lady and human rights activist. Gloria Steinem, women's rights activist. And Serena Williams, tennis player, and many more. I'm sure many names are coming to your mind as well, of all the amazing women that keep doing amazing things, and of course that have done so many amazing things, leaving legacies that continue today. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. Those were 3 stories we got to choose from 14 that were provided, and then of course we see that there are many more that were left out, but I hope that that just gets the juices flowing, that gets our minds thinking, that gets us, to that point of critically thinking about the work of these women, and of course reflecting as well on our own. What can we do? What are we doing? Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. Absolutely appreciate you all, and thank you for joining in. And Pamela Courtney say, how wonderful an interactive engagement on the works of such important women. Supreme. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for sharing that. And supreme indeed is the appropriate word. For anyone looking for fun library programs over the summer with tales to tales or pause to read, or just to find other books like this incredible one, I found a link where those in the US can find their local branch of the public library. Hope it's okay to share. Oh, absolutely okay to share. Thank you so much for doing that. And yes, I'll try to and just create something as well later on that we can put on other platforms as well. But thank you for sharing that, Amanda, West, and of course Sarah and Nathan. We appreciate you. There you go. There's a resource. So if you're able, click on that, and of course get to see those your local libraries, and get to see what they're offering, right? Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. Powerful books, powerful stories. I love it. And tomorrow we're back. We're encouraged to think, and tomorrow we'll be looking at philosophy. What about philosophy? Will be here with us tomorrow. And I'm trying here, I cannot find where I put my copy, but trust me, I will have it right here with me tomorrow. It's probably sitting on my other table where I was preparing for this week, but that story will be coming up tomorrow. What about philosophy? So come on out. Put your thinking caps on, because we'll be needing them tomorrow. Lots of fun guaranteed. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. I love being here with you all. I love spending time here, reading together, learning together, and of course, learning all the great stuff that you're sharing out there too. I appreciate you, and thank you again, Amanda, for sharing that. And we'll of course be sharing it later on the Storytime platforms as well. To everybody that was joining in, thank you for being here with us on Storytime. Good to see you back with us here live on Storytime. Jemison, Alicia, Lindley, and of course April Booker out there in Orange County. Thank you so much for being here with us. Kathy, and of course Luna, thank you for joining us out in Ohio. Thank you for being here with us. Ari and Megan, thank you for joining us out in Kentucky. Thank you indeed for being here with us. And of course, you're telling us that it is board game week this week. Well, enjoy Catopoly, and of course, I'll be enjoying Scrabble here as well. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Pamela Courtney, good to see you here with us. Always. Thank you. Sending you love out there in Nakitosh, Louisiana. Auntie Anne, and of course, keeping in our hearts. Braylon and Chad, sending you love. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. And of course, Missy, thank you for joining us out in Ohio as well. And then out in my hometown of Lusaka, thank you so much for joining in. Liz Paulson, much love to you and everybody else that was joining in with you today on Storytime. This has been Storytime for today. This has been Storytime highlighting the stories of these amazing women. She spoke 14 women who raised their voices and changed the world. Written by Kathy Macmillan and Manuela Bernardi, and illustrations by Kathrin. Honesta. And of course, this one we were reading with permission of the publishers, FAMILIUS Books. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you next time on Storytime. Reading with Mr. Amos. Glad to see you, my Carter. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining in. And yes, let's definitely connect some more. Thank you for being here with us. Good to see you here on Storytime. And of course, thank you for joining in, and hope that you're having a lovely day wherever you are. Reading with Mr. Amos. Thank you with Mr. Amos. Thank you so much for joining us on Storytime. To everybody that was joining in, much love, hugs, and I'll definitely see you again tomorrow. I was almost saying happy Friday, but no, we have another day together tomorrow, and I'm excited for that one. Thank you so much for being here, friends. I hope that you have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you for being here with us. Much love, and bye-bye.
Story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing. Others very different from the way that I look and think. Read me all of the stories. Read me all of the stories. Some stories from far away, others right here in my neighborhood. Story time. Ooh. Story time. Story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be hearing. Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be hearing.